Hello, my name is Carlotta and today I will be reviewing the book The Cholera Years, the United States in 1832, 1849, and 1866 by Charles E. Rosenberg. This book recounts the history of the cholera epidemic in the United States in the 19th century, when cholera had hit the United States in three separate occasions and three different decades. And as a reader, I really enjoyed seeing this because it provides a very schematic view of each time cholera hit, and it makes it very easy for the reader to pinpoint progress between each time. And it sort of leads us to where we are now with medicine, and we can particularly relate it back to how we as a society handled the COVID-19 pandemic. Some of the main components of this book is the exploration of how American government, physicians, and citizens confronted this national health emergency, the role and reputation of physicians and their most common treatments each year on each occasion and wave of cholera, and also the contrast between science and religion. I found the contrast between science and religion really interesting because I think it's where you see the most progress in this book, because in 1832 the main cause of cholera was believed to be God's will against alcoholism, poverty, gluttony, lechery, and fear, or any other strong emotion. Whereas in 1849 we have a shift towards a more scientific perspective, where people start thinking that something in the atmosphere has caused cholera. And there were many sub-theories as to what specifically had in the atmosphere had caused cholera. However, they had already shifted into a scientific perspective. In 1866, the knowledge of John Snow's discovery of 1854 had already been in circulation and had become respectable. John Snow had discovered that cholera was contagious and was spread through sewage water. Therefore, in 1866, we get an entire shift, and the city of New York becomes much more efficient in handling these issues, as they can now focus on sewage and disinfecting. A really interesting part of this book was the treatments, most common treatments each year, because in 1832 and 1849, the most common treatment was calomel, which is a chalky type of mercury, which now we know mercury is incredibly toxic to humans. However, at the time, they would prescribe and administer immense doses until the patient's gums would bleed or until they would experience bilious discharge, which they considered a good sign of the treatment being effective. However, now we know it was just mercury poisoning, and there were also many other bizarre treatments which really show us how far we've come, such as dipping comatose patients into ice cold water or tobacco smoke enemas. In 1866, we get finally a shift in treatments, and treatments become much, much less traumatic, as in general they didn't have to resort to such extreme measures, as they had, thanks to John Snow, found better ways of handling and managing the cholera outbreaks. Another thing I would like to discuss, which I also found really interesting, was the role of the physician, because at the time physicians were really unpopular and they were very poorly educated. All you needed to do was read some books on medicine. Most physicians at the time weren't subscribed to medical journals, therefore they were not keeping themselves updated with new medical discoveries, but rather stayed with the little knowledge they had learned to become a doctor. Therefore, they were very unpopular. Even when New York City tried to open cholera hospitals, people did not want to go to them. The only customers of the cholera hospitals would be the poor class, because they were seen to be playgrounds where physicians could experiment and an easier and faster way to die. Therefore, I find really interesting how things have changed from then, from 1832 to 1866, but particularly from a modern perspective, how these are the basis of where we are now with medicine. Thank you for your attention.